It's not very often that a brand gets phenomenal feedback on a shoe, only to say, that's not the feedback that we wanted, and change the whole design. But that's exactly what New Balance did. Today, we're comparing the SC Elite V5 versus the SC Elite V4. What's up everybody, I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod. You're watching Rad Dad Bod TV, where we review running shoes. Like I said, today we're going to be comparing the SC Elite V5 versus the V4, but if it's your first time watching my videos, you may notice some timestamps below. Feel free to jump around to the various parts of this comparison, but if you do so, I would sure appreciate if you come back, watch the full thing when you get a sec, so I put a lot of time and effort into these videos. And if you've been a viewer for a while, but you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please consider doing so today and turning on notifications so you get notified every time I drop a new video, which is typically Monday through Friday. Before we get to disclaimers and disclosures today, I do want to do a quick plug. I am attempting to enter the Tokyo Marathon through the charity route in 2026. As such, this June I do have to commit a charity bid up front. It's basically blind auction style, and I'm going to bid $4,000, which through my research seems like it should be a high enough bid in order to guarantee me entry. That being said, I then need to raise that money and need to raise it back. I will commit $1,000 of my own dollars, but I need to raise the additional $3,000. And so what I'm planning on doing is donating any ad revenue or donations through the channel for June, July, and August towards that charity. In addition, if you use any of my affiliate links that are posted in the description below, those commissions for June, July, and August will also go towards charity and towards that donation. So if you feel so inclined, if you like what you see today, please consider giving through the super thanks in the comments, or just, again, boosting the video, liking, subscribing, sharing with your friends so that it gets more engagement, so that I can get more ad revenue that I can put towards charity. And if I do raise more than $4,000, all of that will still go towards charity. The additional will just go towards a separate charity that benefits men's mental health. Now moving on to disclaimers and disclosures, I did receive the Elite V5 directly from New Balance for the purpose of review. That being said, I'm not paid, I'm not obligated to include it in any content, not given talk tracks, talking points, and no one watches my videos beforehand. All thoughts are entirely my own. Now let's talk about the intended use of these shoes. Now super shoes as a whole are meant to be marathon racing shoes, and they are meant for the professional athletes that race in the brand's shoes. As such, they're not meant to be accommodating necessarily. They're meant to really be kind of the tool that the professionals use to hopefully win races and get on podiums and have the best possible technology on their foot. As such, that's what they looked at with the SC Elite V5, and that's why the SC Elite V4, despite being widely loved by running fans as a whole, was not exactly what they were wanting. The SC Elite V4, and we'll talk about this in more detail, got a lot of feedback that it was a very accommodating super shoe, kind of like an everyman super shoe, that it was really, really nice for everybody, but maybe lacked the top-end speed. Well, when they heard that, they really wanted to create a product that was going to sit at the top tier racing option where their pros could have a shoe that they could be in podium contention in. So that was the goal for the SC Elite V5. As such, that's how we're going to talk about and evaluate the shoes today. Now, from a price standpoint, both of these shoes come in at $250. Really nice to see New Balance keeping it consistent and not raising that price this year. Most brands are raising their prices, so we'll see as tariffs continue to take effect if the price of New Balance shoes as a whole goes up. But as of right now, I'm hearing $250 for each. Next, moving to the specs from a weight perspective, the V4 came in at 7.2 ounces, which is 204 grams, and the V3 actually comes in slightly heavier at 7.3 ounces, which is 214 grams. So neither of them are heavy, to be clear, by any means. Like, those aren't heavy shoes, but for super shoes, for racing shoes, they are on the heavier side of modern super shoes. So something to consider, but between the two, the weights are basically the same. Then from a stack perspective, both have that 40 millimeters in the heel, keeping them World Athletics legal, but the forefoot is different between the two. So with the new V5, you have a 32 millimeter forefoot, which means this is an 8 millimeter drop. And then you have a 36 millimeter forefoot in the SC Elite V4, meaning that's a 4 millimeter drop. So literally a much, or like double the drop, a much more aggressive drop in the V5 versus a much more accommodating 4 millimeter drop in the V4. Now moving to the fit, the shoes have completely changed fit throughout. So the V4 for me fit a little bit short, and then it fit wide pretty much throughout the entirety of the shoe. It was not necessarily baggy, and we'll talk about the upper here in a second, but it definitely was wide as a whole, and, you know, very, very wide foot friendly. accommodating to the point where it was a little bit difficult with the fit, because for me, I would have wanted to half size up from a length standpoint, but from a width standpoint, it would have been far too wide if I did half size up. Now moving to the V5, I feel like they really dialed the fit on this one, where it has a little bit more of a standard overall fit, right? I wouldn't call it wide in any particular area. I would say standard throughout, and then I would say it's true to size lengthwise. So if you are looking for wide sizes and you're looking for a more accommodating overall fit, you may still want to go with the V4, but if you thought that the V4 was a little bit wide overall, the V5 is probably your solution, but I would not half size up in the V5 at all. I feel like it fits perfect lengthwise. Moving to the uppers, the V4 had a synthetic engineered mesh last year called Phantom Fit. It was this lightweight, breathable upper, right? It was almost translucent in certain areas, and then you had some light cushion there in the heel. You also had kind of a felt almost tongue, right? A very thin tongue that was not gusseted. And so, you know, the upper did give me a little bit of trouble. So for one, the ankle collar was a little bit rigid around the ankle, and so sometimes there was going to be a little bit of rubbing. The shoe was breathable and it was accommodating, and I didn't feel like I had too much shifting in it, but I did lack a little bit in the lockdown due to the width of the shoe and really had to cinch down the laces to get the right fit. And on top of that, I did use the runner's knot with the upper as a whole. Problem with the runner's knot and the tongue though is that the tongue was so short that sometimes you did get some lace bite on top of the ankle from that runner's knot and from the laces just pressing down. Moving to the V5, this upper has been kind of criticized, at least visually, by a lot of people. I will say that yes, the upper of the SC Elite V4 looks more race-like. It looks more streamlined race fit, but if you haven't actually held the SC Elite V5 in hand, or you haven't seen it in person, then you really don't know what you're looking at, because this is actually a single layer mesh. So it also is very, very lightweight. It is very, very breathable, but you actually have a thin tongue that is a little bit longer. So even if you have to do a runner's knot, you're gonna be okay. The tongue is fully gusseted. The ankle collar has light cushion and a little bit of padding there in the heel. And honestly, it's one of the more comfortable or most comfortable uppers that I've ever worn in a race shoe. Sometimes race shoes can be a little bit harsh in the upper on the foot and they cause like different rubbing, but you put up with it because the foam underfoot is just so special. I really feel like this is a really strong, like high quality upper. It's breathable, it's light and comfortable, and you're not really sacrificing anywhere in it based off of those details. The lockdown in the shoe is phenomenal. I don't feel like I'm shifting around, and it's not overly warm. It's not overbearing. It's a good balance between minimal and high tech. Now moving to the midsoles, you have Fuel Cell, which is a PIBA base foam in both of the shoes. Both of them also have a carbon fiber plate that runs through the shoes, but my understanding is that the carbon fiber plate orientation has been altered a little bit in the V5. The other thing I found is the foam in the V4 feels significantly softer and squishier to me, and you know, it is soft still in the V5, but I find that the V5 is a little bit more supportive overall, where the V4 was almost overly soft sometimes to where I didn't feel like I was getting a lot of energy return, right? It was very, very comfortable. The base was really, really wide. It was stable overall, very accommodating at various paces. I think, you know, like I said, a lot of people said that, you know, the SC Elite V4 was like a great beginner super shoe, and I would agree with that. Like, it wasn't super, super aggressive to where, you know, it would tire out your calves or tire out your arches. It was very accommodating, right? The SC Elite V5 goes pretty much in the opposite direction. It is a lot more aggressive. There's a more aggressive like snap off of the toes, right? The foam feels a little bit firmer, but you do feel like you get better energy return. And it is not inherently unstable, but it is a narrower overall base, especially in that midfoot area. And so you're not going to get as much stability or support underfoot in that essence. So if you like the V4 foam and midsole setup, honestly, I don't think you're going to be a fan of the V5. That being said, if you were wanting a little bit more speed or something a little bit more aggressive in the midsole from the V4, then the V5 is going to feel like a pretty significant upgrade overall. Pace versatility wise, I still feel like the V4, I still feel like the V5 has some really good pace versatility. I warmed up in the shoe for my speed workout, so I was going, 9, 10, even like maybe like 11-minute pace at some point just in the warm up, and I felt comfortable. Like sometimes a super shoe feels like you're fighting it if you're trying to slow down. it feels comfortable at various paces. And so I'm really not worried about that at all. It's really more that the foam isn't quite as soft in my mind, and it's not going to be quite as inherently stable like the V4. So you're going to lose a little bit of the audience because of that. Moving to the outsoles, you had, the strategically placed rubber on the V4, which to me usually was fine, but I did feel like, it lacked a little bit of durability. You can see there in the lateral heel that it is wearing down. And I think I had 50 or so miles on these shoes. And sometimes I did have a little bit of slippage with the rubber. Moving to the V5 though, we have this new geometry or this new design in the rubber, and you almost have little lugs that don't protrude a ton, but those little lugs really grip the ground very, very well. And I found that the outsole of the V5 was very, very good, very grippy. I ran through, some wet areas in my neighborhood from sprinklers, different things, like purposely tried to get the shoes wet to test it out. And they actually were squeaking on the road and gripping the road really, really well. So I do think the outsole in the V5 is pretty significantly better. And there's like no wear and tear whatsoever through 30 miles on the shoe underfoot. Now, as far as my pick between the two, honestly, it probably would depend on what my goal for the marathon was. If it was, just if I was running with friends, wanting to just enjoy the race, enjoy the venue, have a good time, the V4 is probably better suited for that. But if I was trying to go fast and I wanted to really kind of push my pace and I was between these two shoes, that's where the V5 is probably going to be a better overall option. So just in evaluating from a pure super shoe standpoint, I do think that this is a pretty significant improvement over the V4, though I really enjoy and like the V4 too. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the shoe. It's just that if I'm looking for something more aggressive, I'm looking for a shoe that's going to hopefully help me PR, I'm going to lean towards the V5, right? A big part of that comes down to the upper, to me, actually is way more comfortable, even though the underfoot feel of the V4 is more comfortable, but then I get a better snap and better pop off the ground in the V5. So I think it'll come down to obviously personal preferences. If you really, really liked the V4 though, and that was like a phenomenal ride for you, I would just grab this one on sale as the V5 comes out because you'll be able to get it at a discount. But if you were wanting a little bit more, again, that's where you want to lean towards the V5. So for me, I would take the V5 from a pure super shoe aspect. Maybe from a pure enjoyment aspect, I might take the V4. So just some final thoughts. New Balance made some changes this year. Some of them I've really enjoyed, like the SC Elite V5. I was a big fan of the 880 update. I thought that was a good update. But the Rebel V5, I really like the Rebel V5, but I liked the Rebel V4 a little bit more. I felt like the Rebel V5 became a little bit more of a daily trainer. But one thing that stood out to me is that the changes that they made to the SC Elite V5, to the Rebel V4, to the Rebel V5 as well, right, to the 880, right, that they will probably make to the 1080, it's very clear to me that New Balance is listening to the feedback of the fans, right, both the professionals and the fans. And, while personally I still like the Rebel V4 a little bit better because I felt like it was just a little bit more lightweight, a little bit more nimble, all of the things that were wrong in the V4, they corrected in the V5. They just corrected some things that I think they didn't need to, right? With the SC Elite V5, it's kind of the same thing. All the things that didn't really work for me in the V4, or that, people who are trying to really push pace and really trying to get PRs that didn't work in the V4, I do think that they significantly improved in the V5. So that's just what stands out to me from New Balance right now. I'm really impressed with their ability to take that feedback and to iterate and to design. I got to meet with some of their product designers at the running event this last year in Austin, and it's just really apparent that they put a lot of thought into the changes that they make. So I know that aesthetically, some people are not a huge fan of the new Rebel. They're not a huge fan of the SC Elite, and I can say that, sure, they maybe don't look like last year, like the super shoe. They maybe don't have the same super shoe look. I think that at the end of the day, the performance of the shoes speaks for themselves, and I'm really, really happy with the performance of both of them, even though I may enjoy the Rebel V4 at least a little bit more. So if you stuck around this far, I sure appreciate you. Please take a second, let me know in the comments what questions you have about this comparison, or what you enjoyed, or what I could be doing better to make these even more enjoyable for each and every one of you. And if you watched this far and you haven't yet hit the subscribe button, please consider doing so today and turning on those notifications so you get notified every time I drop a new video, which is typically, again, Monday through Friday. Lastly, final plug. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider hitting that thanks button in the video above the comments and donate to the channel so that I can go ahead and donate that towards charity for the Tokyo Marathon. And if you have friends who are also running shoe enthusiasts or just getting into running, please consider sharing my video so they can get a broader reach, but also so that I can help you and your friends find the right running shoes for you. Just to round us off, I'll leave you with a question, as always, which is, how do you feel about the changes to the SC Elite V5? Do you think you prefer the 4, or are you excited for the change? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks, everybody.